of America, and they don't like most of the Trump voters because they are Americans. And De Niro, how stupid is he without a script? Isn't that amazing? I used to think, wow, that guy's brilliant. But once you take the words away from him, he is so stupid. Then when he goes, impeachment will make America great again, and everybody's, how intellectually deprived he is. He's a coke-addled simpleton, without a script. It is hysterical.
Greg Gutfeld didn't step into this moment looking to start a fight. He stepped in ready to pull back the curtain on a performance that, truthfully, has been running out of energy for years. While the culture usually expects shouting, outrage, and dramatic anger, Gutfeld chose a calmer path. That restraint ended up doing far more damage than any sharp insult ever could. What followed wasn't really a clash of personalities or a battle of egos. Instead, it felt like a quiet breakdown of a Hollywood story that had been carefully protected for a long time. In a media world that thrives on noise and constant reactions, Gutfeld simply let clarity lead the way, and the difference was striking. One man leaned on reputation and the same recycled bursts of anger.
Last night, an elderly, confused man went missing in New York. Luckily, a band of self-satisfied elitists found him babbling on the street, threw some pants on him, gave him a stage.
Oh my God.
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
It kills me. Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture. And the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute.
Robert De Niro stepped into the spotlight expecting the room to respond the way it always had, because for decades it usually did. Awards, prestige, applause, and instant respect. But the reality now is that none of that automatically gives someone authority anymore. Gutfeld picked up on that gap right away. De Niro wasn't really speaking from fresh insight. Instead, he seemed to be leaning on his legacy, as if the weight of his past roles could carry the strength of his current opinions. And that's where things quietly shifted. Gutfeld didn't go after De Niro's career at all. In fact, he almost stepped around it completely, treating the outburst more like background noise than some powerful speech everyone had to treat as sacred. The message came across in a calm, cutting way. Fame doesn't automatically equal wisdom. Anger isn't the same as courage. And raising your voice doesn't make a point any stronger.
Robert De Niro's 29-year-old child, Aaron, has come out as transgender. When the press asked her for comment, she said, "You talking to they, them?"
If you're enjoying this takedown, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There's a reason the moment felt so familiar, and honestly, not in a good way. Robert De Niro has been repeating the same routine for years. Big, dramatic anger, long pauses for effect, and strong moral certainty delivered at full volume. It used to work because many people confused intensity with intelligence. But when something keeps repeating, it slowly loses its power. Greg Gutfeld saw that right away. What looked like passion wasn't really conviction anymore. It felt more like muscle memory. The anger didn't sound urgent. It sounded rehearsed, like someone hitting their marks in a scene they've played too many times, for an audience that stopped applauding halfway through. And once that realization settled in, the spell was broken.
And the star of Dirty Grandpa, Robert De Niro, getting censored by The View after raging like a bull who saw a red MAGA hat.
And they might think that it's going to make their life better, or they just want to, excuse my French, literally, it's almost like he wants to do the worst that he could possibly do to show this country. His slow.
Jesse, I find that he's smartest when they drop his audio.
Greg Gutfeld's real edge wasn't in being quick or sarcastic. It was in having control. While Robert De Niro poured emotion into the room, Gutfeld let silence do a big part of the work. He didn't rush to interrupt or try to dominate the moment. Instead, he watched, waited, and then calmly refrained everything in a way that hit harder than any raised voice ever could. Suddenly, the anger didn't feel scary, it looked exposed. Once it was clear this was more performance than principle, De Niro's intensity lost its punch. The audience didn't feel attacked, they felt like they were in on the joke. And that shift is powerful. The moment outrage turns into entertainment, it stops convincing anyone. Gutfeld didn't need to shout or escalate. He just cooled things down and let the imbalance speak for itself.
They can't see it themselves, and they're not surrounded by people telling them that they have a problem, and they lack self-awareness because everybody either tells them they're wonderful or wants to sell. So he has no clue what he's doing, and he's upset over the emotional nature. His anger is emotional about Trump. It's nothing practical.
What made the exchange hit so hard wasn't cruelty, it was precision. Greg Gutfeld wasn't swinging wildly or going for cheap shots. He was simply pointing out something everyone in the room already sensed but hadn't said out loud. Robert De Niro's authority wasn't coming from real substance anymore. It was coming from habit. People weren't listening because they were convinced. They were listening because they were used to listening. Gutfeld broke that pattern by treating De Niro's outrage as ordinary instead of untouchable. He stripped it of its power. Once the mystique disappeared, all that was left was a man repeating himself louder each time, hoping that volume could stand in for relevance. And that truth landed far harder than any insult ever could.
Of course, the real story is how accusations of Trump's nutty behavior always ends up with the accusers acting nuttier. De Niro calls Trump crazy as he goes crazier. Adam Schiff calls Trump a liar as he makes up quotes. Dems talk about undermining institutions as they try to undermine an election. But when asked for reasons why Trump shouldn't be president, all Bobby had were sputtering F-bombs. His resistance had run out of script.
The most striking part wasn't even what Greg Gutfeld said, it was what he didn't do. He didn't get angry. He didn't act impressed. He didn't treat Robert De Niro like some dangerous voice that needed to be confronted. He treated him like background noise, something people have learned to tune out. And for someone who feeds on reaction, that's brutal. De Niro's anger relies on pushback to feel important. Without it, it just hangs there, awkward and exposed. Gutfeld let it linger long enough for everyone to hear how empty it sounded. When an audience realizes a rant has no point, no insight, no solution, and no depth, it stops seeming bold and starts feeling desperate. At that moment, De Niro wasn't just losing an argument, he was losing weight, presence, and authority. And that's when the bigger picture hit. This wasn't just about one actor losing his cool. It was a wake-up call for an entire celebrity class. The rules have changed. Hollywood outrage used to work because it went unchecked. The media treated it like wisdom, audiences treated it like courage, and critics treated it like moral leadership. Gutfeld popped that bubble live on camera. He showed that yelling from a protected pedestal isn't rebellion, it's comfort disguised as bravery. De Niro wasn't risking anything. No career, no reputation, no access.
It's a good time to reflect on how Americans fought and died so that we may enjoy the freedoms guaranteed to us by a democratic government. A government that, as President Lincoln said, of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Under Trump, this kind of government will perish from the earth. I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye.
What made it even sharper was how easily the illusion fell apart once it cracked. Robert De Niro didn't lose credibility because someone shouted him down. He lost it because someone refused to treat him like a prophet. Greg Gutfeld's approach forced a hard truth. Outrage without insight is just noise, and noise fades fast. The anger didn't feel threatening anymore. It felt outdated, like a protest chant stuck on its first draft. And when the audience senses that, respect disappears. You could feel the shift. The moment people stopped listening for meaning and started listening just to the tone, that's when everything started to fall apart. Once your message is judged by delivery instead of substance, it's already lost. De Niro wasn't being challenged, he was being outgrown. By this point, the imbalance was clear. He kept leaning harder into emotion, as if sheer intensity could rewind the moment and restore authority. But all it did was make the gap wider. Gutfeld, calm and steady, revealed the real problem without ever spelling it out. De Niro was arguing from memory, not reality.
Idiot is the president. The guy is a fool. Our government today, with the prompting of our baby-in-chief, has in chief, I call him.
That's some reliable source you got there. This is what moms call bad language, or what producers call great TV. The plan: get an irrational figure at peak derangement and goad him into snapping. It's like cabaret for the chronically obsessed.
He was fighting ghosts, past relevance, past influence, past applause, while acting like the present still owed him respect. And that's when the scene shifted from awkward to revealing. The anger stopped looking principled and started looking defensive, like someone realizing the audience had moved on but refusing to admit it. Greg Gutfeld didn't steal the spotlight. Robert De Niro handed it over by clinging to a role that no longer exists. The moment wasn't loud, it was clear. And clarity can be brutal. What sealed it wasn't one knockout line. It was the slow accumulation of quiet exposure. By now, the audience wasn't reacting to what De Niro was saying. They were reacting to why he was saying it. The desperation showed, the anger sharpened. Every gesture, every tightened grip on the microphone looked like someone hoping sheer force could bring back authority. But it couldn't. Authority doesn't come from insistence, it comes from resonance. Gutfeld knew that and let the moment breed just enough for everyone else to see it too. De Niro wasn't being challenged by a rival, he was being challenged by indifference. And nothing rattles a performer more than realizing the room isn't even hostile. It's just done listening.
Robert De Niro graced the knitting circle in hell known as The View, where he tried to link random thoughts into a sentence. Joy was there to wind him up, since he's played some of the most unredeemable characters.
You have played some of the most really unredeemable characters. Travis Bickle. Travis Bickle was a psychopathic taxi driver. Jake LaMotta, who used to beat his wife, and he was in The Raging Bull. Is Trump worse than they are?
To me, he is. He has no understanding that I can see of the outside world other than anything around him. He has no idea of what his purpose in life is as the president should be, and that is to pull the country together, to be for the people, to heal wounds, not to open them up and pour salt on them.
De Niro clearly has thought about this, more so than his career. His choice of roles is now down to cinnamon and law.
It was boredom that did the real damage. That's when outrage becomes brittle, when passion starts cracking under its own weight, and when a performance finally reveals itself as just that, a performance, with no audience left to convince. At that point, the tension wasn't dramatic, it was awkward. Robert De Niro wasn't collapsing because anyone embarrassed him. He was unraveling because the spell had stopped working. For the first time in a long time, his anger wasn't being seen as profound or brave. It was being seen as predictable, and predictability is fatal to authority. You could almost feel it sink in. The old shortcuts didn't work anymore. The glare didn't intimidate. The raised voice didn't command. The moral certainty didn't impress. Greg Gutfeld didn't have to say any of this out loud. The room understood on its own. De Niro kept pushing, but every push just reinforced the same truth. He wasn't leading the conversation. He was chasing control that was already gone, holding tighter to something that simply wasn't there. By the end, the result wasn't flashy. It was final. De Niro didn't lose because he was attacked. He lost because the moment revealed something anger can't fix. The era when celebrity outrage automatically commanded respect is over, and this exchange made it crystal clear. Gutfeld didn't need to claim victory, spike the ball, or chase applause. He just let reality stand unfiltered. And reality doesn't care about legacy, past roles, or credits. It only responds to relevance.
I read that article that you sent me about the last nights of John Belushi and how De Niro was there and just basically partied with him and then split. And it's just like, that's now I just think of him as a really stupid guy.
Well, he's got The Irishman coming out. That looks pretty good.
I'm gonna go see it.
Yeah, we should go see it.
Robert De Niro came in full of emotion, certainty, and the belief that his voice still carried weight. Gutfeld responded with patience, timing, and the quiet understanding that the loudest person in the room is often the weakest. When it ended, nothing needed to be said. The silence spoke for itself. One man walked away unchanged. The other walked away exposed. Less a cultural force, more a clear reminder of how quickly authority fades when it's built on applause instead of substance. The real impact didn't happen in the room, it happened afterward. Clips spread, reactions poured in, and the same pattern repeated across the internet. Not outrage, not heated rebuttals, just laughter, memes, and shrugs. That's the nightmare for anyone who survives on moral outrage.
Time to reflect on how Americans fought and died so that we may enjoy the freedoms guaranteed to us by a democratic government. A government that, as President Lincoln said, of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Under Trump, this kind of government will perish from the earth. I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms.
You can fight anger, you can even fight criticism, but you can't fight being dismissed. Robert De Niro didn't spark debate, he sparked fatigue. This moment landed because it reflected something bigger than either man. Audiences aren't rejecting opinions, they're rejecting lectures, especially from people who never face the consequences of the policies they shout about. Greg Gutfeld didn't create that shift, he just exposed it. He gave voice to what millions already feel but rarely see acknowledged on mainstream television.